Arkansas is taking on Auburn this Saturday on the Plains. And yes, it's very personal for the Razorbacks to win this game. We'll also talk about what happens if Arkansas wins or loses against Texas in the exhibition basketball game this weekend, as well as our final predictions. It's all coming up here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Underdog. Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com with promo code Locked On and get your first deposit doubled up to $100. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Friday as we are pretty much rolling into the weekend, trying to get to that point, which I know we all are, and all excited about it. But the game against Auburn is a big one. We've been previewing it a lot this week. We've been discussing it in hard detail this week. But to be honest, I'm actually feeling good about it. I'm feeling confident about Arkansas's chances in this game. And one of the reasons being is because I feel like Arkansas is the better team. But also, it's very personal to Arkansas in this game. And if you don't want to believe me or hear it from me, listen to Sam Pittman when he talks about this particular game and what it means and the fact that they've lost to him so much, just all of those things mixed into it.
They didn't play well against Auburn last year. I think that's a driving force for him. Obviously, they did some things that had success against us, and him. Auburn's a team we haven't beat 6 times in a row, and it's a big deal to us, and I'm sure it is to them to continue that streak. But I think it is personal to our guys that, we've got guys on our team. We got Dalton Wagner, who's been here 6 seasons, and we haven't beat them, and that's a credit to them and their program. But I think there's a little more incentive. We've got to win, and it's going to be very difficult, but I do, yes, to answer your question, I do feel at practice that we understand that Auburn has embarrassed us 6 years in a row, and we'd like not to make it to 7th, but we got to go play well.
So Sam Pittman lays it out as far as it being embarrassing. They've embarrassed us for 6 straight years. In fact, Sam Pittman was on the coaching staff in 2015, the last time that Arkansas beat Auburn. And coincidentally, that was his last year as the offensive line coach for Arkansas, too, as he moved on. But we know you should have beaten them in 2020. We know last year you played your worst game. Even talk about KJ. He didn't play well. He had that strip sack fumble that was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. And then Arkansas gets the ball back, punts it on 3 and out, and then Auburn throws a big bomb down the field to really separate themselves in that game. And it was a really frustrating thing. Like, it was a really annoying thing to watch because you felt like, again, Arkansas was the better team last year, but just played their worst game. It needs to be personal for everybody. I think it's even personal for Razorback fans against Auburn because it has always seemed like random things have happened. Random things have happened to keep Arkansas from winning these games, from performing well in these games. In a lot of cases, it was them. Like, it was Arkansas playing poorly. So I'm not trying to say that it was some like external force that was always keeping them from winning it. But it's one of those games that has just been so incredibly annoying and incredibly frustrating to where you want to beat them so bad just because you feel like they've had it coming against you. Like, you feel like you're due against them. You're tired of losing to them. Nobody on this Razorback football team has beaten Auburn. I mean, if you talk about Drew Sanders, okay, well, if we're going to get technical, but you know what I'm saying. Like, nobody who has been on this Razorback roster for an extended period of time, up until this year, has beaten Auburn. Like, they just haven't. And so they want to be able to be able to win that game and to finally get that monkey off of their back. And getting sick and tired of the embarrassment or the officials screwing them over or whatever. They just want to put that matter to rest, put it to bed, and move on. And I pretty much said this the other day, that if Arkansas is going to beat Auburn, this is the year to do it. I know it's on the road, but Arkansas is going to have zero excuses to lose this game. Auburn's not a good football team. Everyone's like, well, they played close. Okay, yeah, they played close, but they're not a good football team. They turn it over more than anybody. They're like one of the worst teams in rush defense in the SEC. Okay? They can't I think they have penalties like crazy, one of the most penalized teams. Pretty sure their scoring is close to the bottom in the SEC because they're only averaging 21 points a game. So the point is that this is a game you should win. And there's no overlooking it. There's no, thinking about, what the future of the season's going to hold. It starts here. Arkansas having the difference between having a good season, or at least a successful season, to a disappointing season is going to happen in this game against Auburn. I mean, that's just the way it is. Because if you beat Auburn, you think you'll beat Liberty. I think you will. I know everyone's like, oh, Liberty's a good team, which they are, but you'll still win that game. And then you have your two toughest games with LSU and Ole Miss back-to-back at home. Good teams, but you like their confidence against them, and then Missouri at the end, you should win anyways. But the point is like, with what's left on your schedule, if you want to have a good year, you have to beat the teams that you're better than. And Arkansas is fully better than 3 of the last 5 teams left on the schedule, and Auburn's one of them. If you don't beat Auburn, it's all for naught. Because if you don't beat Auburn, you're not going to go 4-0 the rest of the way and then finish out 8-4. If you beat Auburn, though, not only does that give you, obviously, another win in the SEC, which you need so desperately, but it gives you that confidence that, hey, we go up against Liberty, do some things there. We take care of business against LSU in this rivalry game, the battle for the Golden Boot. Ole Miss, we feel like we owe. Maybe that one will probably be a little bit personal, too, from last year's game where Arkansas felt like they played really well but just didn't get the victory in Oxford. And then Missouri, you should beat. So it comes down to this game. And so it needs to be personal. It needs to be something that eats this team alive. That's just, they've been chomping at the bit for 2 straight weeks now, wanting to get after this particular team. This one means a little bit more. And for so many seniors that you have on this team, or at least players that are going to be playing their final year of college football, give them something to where they can look back upon and not constantly be like, man, why in the world did we never beat Auburn? Like, give them that. They deserve that. The fans deserve that too. Auburn's is a fine program. I'm not disregarding what they've accomplished. They've won a national championship in 2010. They played for another one in the 2013-2014 season. Like, they have been a good program, and they're a better program than Arkansas, and I'm not arguing that. But as far as a team goes, they have not always been a better team than Arkansas. In fact, in a lot of the cases, Arkansas has been a better team, but for coaching reasons why, they haven't been able to win. And last year, you should have won. You didn't. Year before that, you should have won. You didn't. That's just the way it is. But you're a better team, and you have been a better team the past 2 years. Every year under Sam Pittman, when you've played Auburn, you have been a better team, but you just didn't show it on the field. Now you can. Now you should. You've had a bye week. You got people healthy. You got a good little bit of momentum after that BYU game. You got it going for you. Go out there and win. This is your time to do it. Let these seniors, let these last year players at least have that. They can look back upon their career at Arkansas and say, well, we had some really great moments. We had some disappointments, but at least we got to beat Auburn at least once. Give them that. They deserve it, and the fans deserve it as well. This episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to spice up the college football season. It's an easy place, an easy app. It's very convenient and very familiar. If you've ever used any sort of apps that, you use, whether it's social media or whatever, it's so easy and convenient to go through. And I feel like that's one of the most important things when it comes to apps and when it comes to something as important as fun as fantasy, is you want something that is easy to do where you're not constantly struggling, constantly asking questions to where you just get frustrated with the thing and you delete it. That's not what Underdog Fantasy has. It's a very easy app to use. And they have different ways where you can go about betting on these particular games. Like you have a higher and a lower deal, right? Because if you want to go higher in the amount of completions or touchdown passes that are thrown or lower than what those are, that's it. Just higher or lower. You just choose it. It's so easy. So sign up today with promo code Locked On, all one word, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. You deposit $100, you get $100 for free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play. And that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Locked On. Remember, it's all one word. Get in on the college football pick'em action today with Underdog Fantasy.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so continuing on with the Locked On Razorbacks podcast, we know Arkansas is playing a basketball game against Texas that no one's going to be able to watch this weekend unless you're at the arena, which we all know it's dumb, it's stupid, makes zero sense, but what are you going to do? You know, just sit here and complain. But luckily we got, for instance, Curtis Wilkerson, who joined us earlier. He's going to be down there watching the game and covering it. So I would recommend people going on Twitter and following him because he'll give you up-to-date info on everything too. So, but I thought there was a few things to come from it and a few interesting things as far as what was said this week. And Jordan Walsh is one of them. And he had a really cool comment because he was asked about his recruitment to Texas because they heavily recruited him. And he had probably one of the greatest comments you'll ever hear and why he, you know what? I'm just going to let him explain it.
I went on a visit to Texas too. And one of their pitches were, we're building a new arena. You could potentially be the first person to ever score in this arena. And so when I remembered that, and now that we're getting to play them for the first game there, I still have that chance. So that was a pretty cool thing.
I do think that's a pretty cool thing too. Like, just imagine, like, it's like, hey, you get to be the one that first scores in our brand new arena, and he's like, yeah, but Arkansas's better, so I'm gonna go there, and then he still has that opportunity to do it. Like, I really hope Jordan Walsh starts and gets the first bucket of the game. Like, that would be the best thing ever. I know that's a pretty tough thing to do, all things considered. But if he was able to do that, that would be something that would really be a good kickoff to a good season there too. So anyways, I wanted to get that out of the way and just talk about how funny that was. But also, it's an exhibition game at the end of the day. It's not something that's going to be making or breaking the season. It's not like everyone's going to be saying, okay, well, this shows how good Arkansas is going to be this year based on this one exhibition game or everything. But I do think it's fascinating just for talking about the different elements of it, of like, okay, well, if Arkansas wins, what happens? What's the reaction? And if Arkansas loses, what happens and what's the reaction? And honestly, I am going to try to temper any sort of expectation I have in this game because, again, it's an exhibition game. It's for charity, but both teams are going to want to win. It's going to be competitive. Like, this isn't just your run-of-the-mill Rogers State. Like, this is where both teams want to see, all right, we're going up against one of the better teams in the country. Let's see where we stack up. Let's see where we're at. Now, if Arkansas goes in and wins this game, is able to spoil the opening of their new arena down there in Texas and wins, or even just wins convincingly, like where it's not in doubt, Arkansas is in control, they're for sure the better team and all of that. The reaction to that would be, well, dadgummit, this team is as legit as it can be. I mean, if they beat Texas down there in Texas, where they had a packed arena and took care of business, I mean, there's who can't they beat? They're going to go out there in the non-conference and just roll through it. They're going to go to the Maui Invitational and roll through it. Like, they're going to be popping bottles. Everyone's going to be like, this is legitimate. This is real. Even though it doesn't count. But it's going to make people start to think, hey, there's something to brew in here. But if Arkansas loses this game, it's just an exhibition game. Doesn't really matter, right? Who cares? Just practice is all it was. Just a glorified scrimmage. Whatever. Yeah, wake me up when the Maui tournament happens. Like, that's what probably Razorback fans are going to approach it as. But even if they lost, but in all reality, though, if they lost this game against Texas, maybe like you got to always look at the silver linings. Like maybe that would be something to where it would open them up and be like, all right, so we're not where we need to be. We're not as good as what we think we are, what we've been hearing about. We got some serious things to work on. So let's get after it. Because that was kind of a humbling experience. So even if Arkansas lost, I'm sure that approach could be taken and given them an idea. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. Like I don't know if Arkansas is going to win or not. I think that they're still one of the best teams in the country. Talent-wise, it's definitely there. But it's so early. And you got all these new faces and these new guys. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how it's all going to go down that way. But either way, I think that there's a lot of things that you can take from the game, whether Arkansas wins or loses. And I know Muss, a phenomenal coach, one of the best coaches in college basketball, in my opinion. He's going to take it, whether they win or lose, and use it as some sort of teaching opportunity or whatever. But just imagine, though, because obviously, again, and I know it doesn't count, but just imagine. Just imagine if Arkansas goes down into Texas and beats them convincingly. The opening of their new arena and everything in front of a packed crowd beats them convincingly. Imagine they do that. And like, you got Nick Smith got like 18 points. Anthony Black has 11 points and 9 rebounds and 8 assists. And, you got Trevin Brazil out there, getting a double-double, whatever. Just think of just a dominant, impressive performance by Arkansas down there in Texas. Just imagine that. How's that going to make you feel? Be honest. Be honest. Like you're excited as it is right now. Like you think Arkansas is going to be a Final Four team right now. You think they can win a national championship right now. But imagine if they showed something to you on the court already. Because we saw them in Spain, saw them against Rogers State, but against a legitimate team with a legitimate coach on the road in a wild, hostile environment, and you beat the brakes off of them, and that just happens to be Texas. How's that going to make you feel? It's going to put you into a fever pitch of excitement. And I'll admit it, it'll be the same for me. Just what we do. We get excited about things like that. They got to go down there and take care of business. And again, the game doesn't count. If they win or lose, it's not going to have any impact on their season. But if they win, and they win big, there's not enough weights in the world that's going to be able to be tied to my feet to try to bring me down from cloud 9 and thinking this team's going to win it all. I'm just being honest about it. We'll get to our final predictions of Arkansas and Auburn and what I think is going to happen in the game in our final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. And it's coming up next.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I got to get to the final predictions for Arkansas and Auburn as I kind of always wait to the final segment of the final podcast of the week to dive into those and what I think is going to happen. As has been mentioned, I believe Arkansas is going to win the game. I believe they're going to end that losing streak against Auburn on Saturday. I think they're going to look good at times doing it. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy or it's going to be perfect, but I just do believe that Arkansas will come out strong, look better, look refreshed, and show that they are the better team once and for all. So I think it's going to be done, honestly, though, where Arkansas's offense is going to pick up right where it left off against BYU. I don't think that Arkansas is going to score 52 points, and that would be great. But what I mean by that is that I think that the passing game, the flow of the game, the confidence of the team, the physicality of it all, I think that you're going to see that showcased against Auburn, where Arkansas is going to run the ball effectively against them. As we know, they're really bad against the run defensively. Rocket's going to get his. He's going to have another 150-yard game. KJ's going to be running it really well as well. Maybe we'll see a little bit more Dominic Johnson. AJ Green, Rashad Benny, like they're going to run it well, but I think that also they're going to really open up passing and give KJ a chance to cook. Go out there, throwing passes to his receivers, dump outs to running backs, maybe doing some wheel routes. Like All of those things, I think that they're really going to open up. And I think the offense is going to be extremely strong in this game. Extremely strong. I think Arkansas scores 38 points. I do. I think that they control the tempo. I think they control the game. And I think that they look extremely impressive from beginning to end and taking care of the football, too. That's the most important thing. No fumbles, no picks. I think Arkansas plays a really good, clean offensive game against Auburn. On the defensive side of the ball, I think Arkansas is going to look better, look probably as good as they have defensively in this game. Auburn has not a great offense. They only average 21 points a game. They don't throw it particularly well. They don't run it particularly well. They're just not a very particularly well played, well coached offense. So I think that Arkansas defensively is going to look as good as they have all season long. Now, what does that mean? Are they going to go out and shut them out? No, I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But I think Arkansas holds Auburn to about their average. Maybe a little bit. I say 24 points. I think Arkansas holds them to 24 points. I think that you have some guys make plays in the secondary. I think Drew Sanders does a good job of providing some pressure. I think Arkansas slows down the run. Overall, I just think Arkansas is going to be a rejuvenated team and take care of business. And defensively, they're really going to wear down Auburn and make some plays. Because, again, Auburn turns the ball over a lot. I think Arkansas is going to take advantage of that. I think they get maybe a pick or two, maybe a fumble recovery or two, ends up changing the game. Arkansas's offense will take advantage of it and score. And I think Arkansas wins this game by 2 touchdowns. Am I being a little bit over the top? Am I being a little bit overconfident? Maybe. But you know what? I have confidence in this team. Auburn's kind of a team that's not really doing much this year. I mean, I don't think the crowd's going to be there and be into it at 11 a.m. They're 3-4. They don't do anything really well. Auburn does not do anything really well. I think Arkansas takes advantage of that. I think Arkansas goes in. They finally beat Auburn 38-24. Final score. Arkansas 2-touchdown win. Home for dinner. And people start really feeling good about the final stretch of the Razorback football season. Appreciate everybody listening into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have, and we'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel next Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you then.